place here but my family. And then our friends came, so I'm like, man. But anyways, I'm glad y'all came, and I hope y'all are ready to hear God's word, because I'm going to let him speak through me tonight. And I kind of hope, a preacher kind of hopes that a message that he has doesn't really apply to a person, unless it's talking about, heaven or something like that when we get to heaven. Because this means that something's wrong in a Christian's life, and of course we don't want that. But if this does speak to someone's heart tonight, then it's awesome. Okay? So my message tonight is going to be, I put a title to it. I know some preachers do, some don't. I usually don't. But anyways, it's not easy. Life's not easy, but it doesn't have to be so hard. We make it more difficult than what it really has to be, do we not? Okay? So if you've ever been a Christian for any amount of time, which I'm believing that everybody in here is a Christian, pretty much. I know everybody in our family is, but one. All the rest of you, I'm guessing that you're Christians. But anyways, so tonight I'm going to be talking about persecutions on part of it. You're like, what does persecutions have to do with revival? That'll put me down, I don't want to hear about persecutions, but I promise it's going to tie in, and it should revive you if you listen to the message tonight. So you can say that there's some persecutions that are more difficult than the other. You can say, losing something small like a toy gets broke. That's not really considered a persecution, but I guess little kids can consider it. To your house, losing your house in a fire. That's a big persecution of, from Satan, or a big trial from God. Those are the differences that I'm going to look at. And losing a loved one is even the more extreme. Would we not agree to that? So I'm going to have a few questions here tonight, and I'm going to ask you some of them. I'm going to mention this. I want you to answer them out loud on some of them. I'm going to keep you involved tonight. I know most preachers don't do that, but I like it when I'm sitting there and they keep me involved. It helps to keep me engaged into what they're talking about. So here's my first question. This one's kind of, you'll be like, what? What does this have to do with anything? But how many of you like it when you're watching a movie and it's getting really exciting, and on the screen it shows up black and white to be continued? How many of you like it? Nobody likes that at all. I hate that. When you watch a movie, you really get involved, and then, man, come on. I gotta go watch the second one now. That's kind of a way for them, the movie creators, to be able to make more money. But anyways, if you want to see the rest of the story, you got to watch the second one. Or I remember when I was in public school, and my teacher would be reading us a book or something, and get you really excited, and then she'd stop. And everybody would get mad. Oh, come on. But anyways, this is kind of what persecutions in our life can be like. You got to see the to be continued part. Because it's really, really hard. God gives us a hard trial. But we got to see the to be continued part to realize what his plan is for us. So here's some examples in the Bible that I thought of. So think of Joseph. He's thrown into a pit and left there to die. What an awesome story, right? Not really. God had a to be continued part with that. So being left for dead, and then he had some, slave merchant people come, and they ended up walking by him, and his brothers pulled him out of the pit, and they sold him for money. I got a question. What is the chances of the people from Egypt walking straight towards that pit? What's the chances of that? Walking straight down that path, straight to him. They could have gone, somewhere else if they wanted to. But God led them straight there for a reason. And I think we know what that reason was. So, Joseph, being thrown in a pit, these slave merchants come, and then we all know the rest of the story. He gets, cast into prison, and then he becomes a second in command right next to Pharaoh. So this to be continued story is even getting better. So I bet you through this story, Joseph was thinking, God, what in the world are you doing? Why are you throwing me in a pit? I served you. I'm telling my brothers, pretty much what you said. Is that not what we're supposed to do? I won't give you face. Okay. Anyways. Okay. But anyways, so Proverbs 16:25 says, "There's a way that seems right unto man, but it leads therefore into the ways of death." Think of that as I share this next one. Lazarus. What about Lazarus dying? Mary and Martha, they're thinking, what is this? Why would you let Lazarus die? And so they're basically telling Jesus, is this your plan? Because I really think it stinks. How many times do we think of that? Lord, your plan kind of stinks right now. Can you help me to figure out what it is? Anyways, Jesus says, I've got a better plan for him. Lazarus, come forth. Can you imagine Lazarus running and heading down the streets of Golden? Lazarus, come forth. No. That would just just be terrible, wouldn't it? But anyways, God had a better plan for him. And I'm pretty sure Lazarus went and told people what happened. And I'm pretty sure that at least one or two souls came to know Christ through his power. So literally, this one right here, there's a way that seems right to man, but it leads therefore to the ways of death. Like literally, Lazarus was at, laying down in the tomb in death. So sometimes it comes down to that, but that's just terrible. But that does wake us up. Like if you've got a really hard-hearted person, what usually wakes them up? It's got to be death of another person, which is the saddest thing. We were talking about my grandfather. Something serious is going to have to happen for him to wake up, and our lost relative, and just other people that we know. Something serious is going to have to happen. And it's just sad. But if that loved one that does die, and that one's a Christian, then it's it's hard to say, but that one is worth it. Having another person receive Christ as Savior and coming to life. So I'm pretty sure Joseph, after he was, I know he didn't, after he was persecuted and thrown in this pit. Well, actually, let me ask you, what did Joseph do after he got out of that pit and he went to jail? Anybody can answer? This one I want you to answer. What did he do? Okay, yes, exactly. He got into prison and he started ministering to people. When do we do that? When do we, God gives us a persecution, what do we usually do? We sit on the pew, right? We don't have that revival like we're supposed to have anymore because God gave us a persecution and said, this is going to make you strong. He said, no, it's not, because I'm just going to sit here. How often do we do that? Or do we get up and we glorify God and we thank Him for what we've gone through? I can't even do that. I'm going to admit, I can't do that most of the time. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is, here's another question. When does a person need to sit physically? When do they usually sit? Like, let's say when you're working really hard and then you sit. What does that mean? You're tired, okay? Or you're done. You're finished, okay? So I've kind of got bad news and I've kind of got good news. But I'll mention that in just a second. So I'm going to keep on talking about persecution. Yeah, I never heard anything, didn't I? No, nobody likes to talk about persecutions, but it's going to tie in, and I promise you it's going to, if it works out the way that I'm planning it to, and I guess I cooperate with God, it's going to work out real well. So a person sits when they're done, right? So think about that question for a minute. When does a person sit? Is when they're done. Okay, so think about that as a go on. So name some people in the Bible that were persecuted. Just name some. Noah, Stephen,
Paul,
okay?
Jesus.
Yes. So the list can go on and on and on. Y'all pretty much did the list put here, but Noah, David, Daniel, Joseph, Paul, Stephen, and it keeps on going and on and on and on. I think anybody in the Bible that was a Christian was persecuted. So the list could just go on and on and on. Okay? So who seems to attack you the most? Believers or non-believers? Seems like believers, doesn't it? Most of the time? I think that's weird, but if you listen to this, it totally makes sense why. And it's actually a good thing, believe it or not. So we should glory in our persecutions, and I'll explain why right here. There's a Bible or scripture in the Bible, and I didn't have time at this moment to find it. But anyways, it says I'm paraphrasing, you should live your life so that those that are on the contrary part will be convicted and change their life. That's basically what the verse says and what it's trying to say. So when a believer comes up to you and they're making fun of you, we get that a lot. I'm pretty sure you do too every once in a while. That they start coming up to you and they start making fun of you. Have you ever looked at it like this? God's using me to they're being convicted. No, we don't think like that, do we? With our human minds, we're thinking, man, told Christ, I'll live for you. I'm supposed to get these blessings. That's not what the Christian life is. Yes, you get blessings, but we're supposed to tell people when they get saved, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. Your old life, that was easy. This one's going to be hard. But it's all well worth it in the end. So, why don't these people, these Christians, why do they come up to you and pick on you? Why don't they mess with God? Well, have you ever heard, pick on someone your own size? They want to pick on someone their own size because